Hello, hello, and welcome back to our podcast, Flower Farming in New Zealand, where we dig into the details of growing beautiful foliage and flowers here in Aotearoa. I'm your host, Jo Robinson. I've been a flower farmer for over 20 years, and I'm passionate about the flower industry and helping others learn. Do join us as we talk all things flowers to encourage the growing, buying, selling, and the use of local blooms. This episode, I'm excited to have the opportunity to talk to Matt from Carbon Options about his story and the benefits flower farmers can gain from using biochar and enrichment teas. Welcome, Matt. So pleased to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Thanks for the invitation. It's a great opportunity for me to expand on what we do here and just give you a little explanation of how it all works.
Excited to do that because I'll be honest, I know very little about biochar. I almost said nothing, but I did do a bit of research because I didn't want to embarrass myself. But tell us to start with who Carbon Options is and how it came to be.
Yeah, certainly. So it's been a really steep learning curve for us as well. Carbon Options, we're just a very small off-grid biochar operation. We're based in the Akatara Valley, which is a valley that runs between Upper Hutt and Waikanae on the coast. And we're at the Upper Hutt end of the valley. And we turn local forestry waste into high-quality artisan biochar.
You say we.
Yeah, as Debbie and I, we're fully hands-on with the operation. Absolutely getting dirty. It's a really satisfying way for us to make something out of nothing, basically.
That's a lovely way to think of it, isn't it?
It all started out, we had some forestry work done here on our block, and the amount of residue leftover slash was just absolutely shocking. So I had to research other ways of using it, and biochar just stood out for me as the way to go. And we've been slowly making biochar since then.
That's really interesting, isn't it? Because that goes back to, as you said, making something from nothing, which is a really lovely way to use your land if it's not actually usable for other reasons. But what makes your process then unique from other kinds of biochar?
Okay, so to start off with, I was just curious as to how we could turn the waste wood into something useful. So did some research. I wanted to improve the land here. This was third crop pine that had been taken off the land. So nearly 90 years of pine leaching the soil. And we wanted to regenerate that ground. And from the areas that we could, turn some of it back into pasture and then let others just to regenerate back into native. Very, very humbly, just by digging a hole in the ground and cooking the char in a pit. So you use the top lit updraft system. So you light the fire on the top. It reduces the oxygen getting to the timber, and over time you create your biochar. Not 100% efficient. There are other ways of doing it, and the way we're doing it now, using a kiln, reduces that oxygen down to virtually zero getting into the kiln, and we get a much better quality product coming out. So we're hitting the 90% carbon with the way we're processing it now. But going back, the idea really for us was just to see whether or not we could use biochar to regenerate some of the land that had been leached and poached of all nutrients and goodness by 90 years of pine trees growing on it. And,
which is a long time to be growing pine, isn't it? And repetitively growing a monoculture.
Yeah, it's not like growing carrot. It's a 30-year cycle every time. The pine trees just leach everything out of the ground. So it was great to be able to put it back in and use the biochar to give the ground more nutrients and put some carbon back into the ground and get the microbes going and start creating soil.
Life. Yeah, creating life. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
You live off-grid in the bush.
Yes.
Yeah? How does that kind of lifestyle influence the way you produce your biochar? It can't be easy.
I suppose you adapt. So we're off-grid. We don't have any mains power. We don't use any large machinery. So the heat from the kiln is self-generated. So twice a week, I do a trip around with my truck and pick up old pallets from warehouses and factories in Upper Hutt area that were going into landfill. I bring them back here, and then that's the fuel for our kiln. Once the kiln gets hot enough, the gases that come off the pine slash then help to boost the temperature inside the kiln, inside the furnace. So we can achieve just using waste materials up to 800-degree temperatures inside the kiln, which is our ideal temperature for creating biochar, anywhere between 6 to 800. It gives us a real quality product.
So we probably need to actually go back a step for people who don't know. And in simple terms, what is biochar? You've just started to explain how you make it, but I just think we need to go back a step and say, what is it?
Okay, so a lot of people equate it to charcoal. So basically, it's cooked timber. We're making it out of pine slash, but you can make it out of anything organic. It could be coffee bean husks, chocolate. Did some experiments with Whittaker's chocolate, and we've worked with Supreme Coffee. We've also worked with Koto Clothing in Wellington and converted their pure cotton waste into char. So anything that's actually lived can be turned into biochar just through this pyrolysis process, this cooking without oxygen.
So, and the pyrolysis is what happens when you use the heat of the rubbish wood, the pellets, but the pyrolysis happens within the kiln, and that's the pine slash, which is turned to biochar.
Correct. So if you can imagine a fire triangle, you need a heat source, you need a combustible material, and you need oxygen for anything to burn. If you remove one of those three elements, and we're removing oxygen, you don't burn your feedstock, but you cook it. So we're cooking it under high temperature, and so we remove everything and are left with carbon at the end. So everything goes out and left with this pure, very black carbon.
Okay, so what is different then between the biochar that you create, which is an artisanal product, and the off-the-shelf products that you can buy from any garden centre or
Yep.
other supplier?
So our take on it is that commercial char is made fast and it's made dirty with mixed feedstocks. It's generally low grade and it can be inconsistent. So we pride ourselves in using clean, in our case, majority of it is clean pine. And if we do any other product, we keep it separate. So we know we've got a pine product. It's all locally sourced. So the mileage of it getting to me is zero because it's all on our property anyway, or next door. So there's been a lot of forestry done here, so we keep it local, and then we've got full control over the process. Once we've cooked it, we then mill it to a finer grade, and then we sieve it through a 5/8 garden sieve. We can then enhance it for you by adding our different mixes of teas or whatever, so you're getting a high nutrient value product at the end of the day.
So is that the main benefit for flower farmers to use biochar, is to increase that high nutrient product?
Most definitely, yes. For instance, I do a couple of blends. I do seaweed tea and a horseshit tea, which I call Pegasus blend, and I've got my Neptune blend, my seaweed tea. And then I've got a little collaboration going at the moment with Panhead Brewery, which is part of Lion Breweries, and I'm taking in their yeast and hop waste, which was going into landfill. They can't feed it to animals due to the yeast content, and so that was just going into landfill. So with those three blends, I add a drop of molasses into it, rainwater, pure rainwater. We collect the rainwater, so we are doing 1,000 litres at a time. So I've got 1,000 litres of rainwater, molasses, and either seaweed or the panhead mix, or I'd go and collect it from the horse and mix it all together. That gets the microbes going.
I have a vision of you running behind a horse, picking up horse manure.
Well, I'd rather do it safely and wait till it's left. But that's basically what goes on. And then all those nutrients that are in the seaweed, potassium, magnesium, sodium, calcium, whatever, all then get soaked up by the char. And then when you put it into the ground, you're sequestering the carbon into the ground for thousands of years, but also then it slowly releases those minerals into the ground and holds them. So the microbes then are taking those nutrients out, and it's like a gentle, slow release. And you can find that with the carbon staying in the ground, you'll find in the hot summers, you won't be needing so much water for your flowers. All that water is retained in the carbon. If you can imagine, a 10-litre bucket of biochar has probably got the surface area of about 5 rugby pitches. It's just like a massive sponge.
So when you get the biochar, explain to me, you say you do a bit of a mix with some of your teas. Are you getting a liquid product or a solid product that you then spray on or you add to the soil? How do you use the biochar and the teas? Are they two separate things used differently?
Right. There's two separate products. We make the teas and we make the char. So the char is dry.
Right.
And it's made. and then we have the teas. If you put the char into the ground dry, the gurus of biochar will call it inoculation or enhancement. You don't enhance it, inoculate it with anything. The first thing it does, because it's anhydrous, it pulls all the goodness out of the soil first before it releases it. However, if you enhance it before you put it in, then it's got that nutrient stored in it and then it slowly releases it. So you can use it both ways. It just depends on how quickly you want to start using your soil.
Yes. So if you were preparing a new field for future use, say 18 months, you could add the dry char. But if you were going to be doing it in spring for this season, you would use a char-infused tea, whether the Neptune or the Pegasus. Right.
Absolutely
Okay.
right. Or you could dig your dry char into your compost heap and let it mature in the compost heap before you then apply it to your flower beds.
I like that idea because so many flower farmers have so much plant material that they cut back at the end of a season. So you could add the char to that, and then you could
Absolutely
even
right.
add your horse manure and whatever within your compost bin, and you've done all the pre-inoculation and everything within your compost bin.
Yes, exactly right. So if you're adding it to your compost, you could add it as little as 1% compared to your compost, up to, if you're going into a really poor soil, maybe 10%. So you don't need a lot to make a massive difference. So on average, we're looking at between 3 and 5% into a compost heap. So from your total mass of your compost, just a 5% of char to that total mass. Yeah.
But having said that, you wouldn't really have to get out a calculator. That could be a quick equation in your head, because it's not going to overfeed the soil, is it? It's going to hold anything in storage until the soil is ready for it. Not when we're ready for it, but when the soil's ready
Correct.
for it.
It's just looking at the more economic way of using it. But yes, you could just put as much as you want into it. But for economics, you might want to buy a 20-litre drum and then add that to your compost heap at a 2, 3, 5% mix over time. And then you'll see a hell of a difference. We turned clay soil into a really good workable vegetable garden over a period of about 2 years, slowly turning it in, using all different types of char. We used the cocoa bean, coffee bean, pine slash, and cotton, all mixed in, just as experimenting as to what was going to work in our environment here, and the various different teas on top.
Have you had feedback from flower growers who have said there's a particular blend that works well for them, or are you still at that stage of starting out and don't have that many results for flower farmers yet?
Our main focus at the moment has been the vegetable growers. So there's an organic farm here called Mongaroa Farms. They've trialed it. They took 2,000 litres of the material and putting that into their compost. And it's early days as far as they're concerned, but they're already seeing how the microbials inside the compost heap are improving before they even put it into the soil. So they can see more worms coming in and more insects. And it's just incredible how it's just changed everything they're doing.
That really makes me smile, the fact that you can actually see that is having an impact, and such a visual impact, without even having to get a microscope out to look for whatever you're looking for in the biome. That's pretty cool. Can we go back a step? Because you just mentioned in passing that biochar can be tied into sequestering carbon. What's the link between that and climate resilience? Is it more about the capacity of the soil to hold water now that you've added the carbon? Is that one of the climate resilience benefits?
There's a number of little benefits to it. So we're locking carbon in for hundreds of years by turning it into biochar. Every ton of char we produce removes 2.5 to 3 tons of carbon dioxide from the carbon cycle. And that then builds resilience into the soil. It assists in holding the moisture, but it also acts as a buffer for pH. In the drought conditions in the summer, it really does help those plants to thrive and carry on growing for a bit longer. It increases that growing season.
So it's fantastic in the dry.
Yes.
Because it's improving your soil, I assume it's helping the structure of the soil to be improved as well. So it would aid with draining.
It improves the soil structure, it improves the root network within the soil. It holds that topsoil together. So you're not getting that washout that you'd get during deluges from storms. It just washes off and ends up in the river. It's holding it all together.
Because it's creating soil, not silt, or it's helping.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not tilling the ground and continuously turning it over. We're actually adding something back into it as well.
Have you, with your work in the carbon sequestering, become connected to any carbon credit or offset programs, or have you heard anything more about who's doing testing from that
Yeah.
point?
So we've got the applications in with them at the moment, but right now, as far as they're concerned, we're just a little bit too small for most of their schemes.
Yeah.
We need to be getting into the thousands of tons of CO2. So, but we're tracking there. We're getting there towards those goals, and we're aiming to be one of the first verified artisan scale biochar carbon producers in New Zealand. So that's our aim anyway. So the feedback's been good from them, very supportive, and they've given us targets to work to. We're just on that roll. We're getting there.
Excellent. So if anybody is considering their carbon footprint in any way
Yes,
and their energy uses, then biochar is one way that they can help in a small way within a small
absolutely.
property. They are actually doing something to help, something positive.
With every ton of char that we produce, we're taking out huge amount of CO2 out of the atmosphere. As I said earlier, it's been a huge learning curve for ourselves. And when we first started and we made the char, and we were getting small sort of nugget-sized pieces of biochar, and we just broadcast it across the paddock, just using our fert spreader, which
Yep.
then cut it down in size again to probably a fingernail size. And the sheep and the horses were out in that paddock, and they were actually eating it as well. So that goes through their digestive system, absorbing everything, and then it goes out the other end. And so we're fertilizing the paddock and adding the carbon at the same time. So it's got huge benefits all round. Absolutely superb. But there is research, and I've not done it yet, but people are adding a small amount of biochar to their animal feed. It's improving their gut health, reduces their methane output, it absorbs it, and then it just comes out the back end and refertilizes the ground.
Like that. I like that. It just reminded me when you said that, the whole circular thing, and you said that you like to focus on the circular economy. Is that so that you can use some of the waste streams that are available to you from the brewery, from the forestry? Is that what you consider your circular cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything we've done so far has come from a waste stream. It's all just waste that we've gathered off our block and cooked it and then returned it back to the land. And then that's sequestered that carbon back in for hundreds of, maybe thousands of years.
You've effectively counteracted that 90 years of pine forestry, haven't you?
Eventually we will have. We've made a very, very good start to it. Each year we just add another application, and already we're seeing huge results. We're in an area here of clay and rotten rock and no topsoil at all, but now we've got good grass growing. I think this year we're going to have the best grass crop we've had in 5 years from basically from rocky land. And that's just through the application of enhanced biochar. And I'm just actually quite proud of how it works.
Good on you. Be proud.
Yeah.
It sounds
Yeah.
like it's been incredibly hard work for you.
It's great seeing the results now, though. Obviously, I'd like to scale it up, but I also want to stay true to our roots. I want to keep the handmade, the clean, honest char, but I want to be able to reach more people and build more partnerships. So the partnership with Lion Brewery, they're local. That's working really, really well. The partnerships with Mungaroa Farms, which is an organic farm and only 10 kilometres down the road from us, that's all keeping it local.
Yes.
Keep making this carbon removal a real recognised thing for New Zealand. I think we're right on the crux of something.
I think that perhaps a good way for flower farmers to use your product would be to actually keep in touch with you and let you know what a difference it has made to their soil or their crops, depending on how they're doing it. That could be quite a good collaboration. Work out which of your blends or whether the biochar is best for flower farmers, what's going to actually be the most efficient.
There's no such thing as bad feedback. All feedback is good.
Yes,
So
always.
I soak up all the feedback that I'm given, and that gives me a way to adjust, amend, change if necessary, tweak, try new things. It's without the feedback, I'll just be bumbling along on my own. So hence we've grown on a very small scale a little bit here to try it and see how it works. And I know that, for instance, the size of our capsicums that we grew last year were twice the size of the capsicums we grew the year before, just through the application of an enhanced biochar mix. So I know it works, but it needs other people to tell me it works as well.
Yeah.
There's a lovely lady over in Martinborough who's trialing some at the moment. She's trialing it at the moment, and she's aiming to start it in one of her beds in the next couple of weeks. And I'm just waiting for the feedback. She took a seaweed mix, so one of my Neptune blends with the char, and yeah, I just love to see how it helps, how it changes. She's putting it into the, I gather, not very highly performing flower bed. Going to see if she can transform that into something else. So yeah, fingers crossed, and no such thing as bad feedback. Every feedback is essential for me.
Essential for the grower too. So how can people get your product, and in what sort of sizes and formats?
At the moment, I sell it in 10 and 20 litre buckets, so either enhanced or not. So you could take a 10 litre bucket and take it away and use your own worm tea or whatever, or I can enhance it for you. I do it by the bulk in like 1,000 litre IBC, or like a wool sack. The local farmers, they've been trying it at the sort of 1,000 litre level, and a couple of little backyard gardeners, they've taken it in 10 litres. So it's all different sizes. I'm looking at reusing the Hessian sacks. I've got lots of Hessian sacks that the coffee grounds came in, and the chocolate husk, the cocoa husk came in. So I'm looking at repurposing those and using that as a packaging to send the char out in. They can contact us through our Facebook page, and we can mail it out.
The link to your Facebook page in the show notes so that people can find that. That's the easiest way to do that.
Excellent, yeah.
Do you deliver, or can you freight? What are the options for people outside of your...
Obviously, I can deliver locally. That's Wellington and the Lower North Island. Further afield, I need to look into that. It'll be a case-by-case scenario, and then we'll go from there.
Yep, that makes sense.
Our next stage really is to do a stall at the farmers market.
A great idea.
In Upper Hutt, we've got Brewtown Market every Sunday, and from August, we hope to be there on a Sunday morning. You'll be able to touch it, feel it, take it away, and for us, that'd be a very good local outlet for us to let people be aware of what we're doing.
Okay, there's 2 flower farmers that attend that market. So you need to go and talk to Liz from Flowering NZ and Julie from the Pickery and get them to do some trials for you so that
Excellent.
They can actually show people the difference rather than you just having to talk about it.
That'd be brilliant.
What is your long-term vision for carbon options?
So long-term, we've got a few experiments that we're working on as well.
Are you a mad scientist in disguise?
In disguise, I must be. So there's other things other than soil improvement we're looking at. I'm just looking at the super absorbency of biochar and whether we can use it in any other applications. So I've just got a patent on a petrochemical spill test kit using biochar. So it's carbon negative to start with. Most spill kits are made from plastic, and this is going to be a forestry / biochar product using Hessian or repurposed cotton material as a spill kit. Now, that's not just petrochemical spills, but anything could be farm bills or whatever. So we're just working on that, bringing that online. Again, getting some of it out for testing. Very, very early days of that. On other smaller levels, we're looking at making biochar fire starters using repurposed recycled candles and biochar mixed and a bit of sawdust. So it'd be a natural fire starter rather than having to buy the paraffin-soaked fire starters that you can get in the supermarkets. So there's all sorts of things we're doing. We're working with a company up in Auckland that recycles clothing. So they take in used uniforms, high-vis vests, that type of thing. And at the moment, they're making things like mouse mats and placemats and things like that out of it. And we've just done some experiments for them where we've turned their pure cotton waste into biochar and managed to sequester nearly 3 tons of CO2 from their test batch that they sent. And then we're looking at now, what can we do with that char, whether we put it into the ground or do we look at maybe making our spill kit out of it. Last year we did some work with Koto Clothing, and that's gone to Massey University up at Palmerston, and they're already using that in their composting, and that will then this spring be used in their fields for growing vegetables. We're right on the cusp of something really exciting happening.
Getting to that point where you're self-sustaining in what you're producing, but also in the time you have available to produce it. It's just finding that sweet spot for your business.
Otherwise, we'll be working 24/7.
Yeah, you can't. That's not self-sustaining, darling. That doesn't work. But what's the single most important piece of advice that you would give to a flower farmer or a grower who is wanting to start using biochar?
Start small, stay local. That carbon footprint, the local thing is really important to me. And just let your soil do the talking. The soil will tell you that you've got it right. And if you want to make it yourself, get clean feedstock, cook it right, add a little bit of biology, bit of your microbial teas, and then the results will just speak for themselves.
And if you don't want to make it yourself, you can always go to Matt's Facebook page, the Carbon Option Facebook page, get in touch with him, and he'll see whether he can help you.
Getting it from north to south, I'm sure we'll be able to find a way of getting the char to you.
I love the idea that you're using local products to make a product that will help the soil repair and retain moisture and all of those things that the carbon and the biochar can do for the soil. I think it's amazing.
And we're talking to packaging companies at the moment and looking at strong paper-based bags. So that will take 10 and 20, maybe 30 litres of dry material. And then we can ship those out in that form. I mean, there's endless possibilities. I do like the idea of recycling. So the recycling of the Hessian, to me, is my first go-to, and then we'll just go from there.
Matt, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and to learn about biochar. I'm sure that there are plenty of flower farmers, in the first case, local to you, who would be interested in trying it. I think going to the Brewtown Farmers Market is a great step in the right direction to get your name out there. And we'd always be interested in hearing back from the results of any experiments that you or flower farmers or other growers have done. And just let's get the word out there and let people really realise how good biochar can be for their soil and their products.
Yes, thank you, Joe, for inviting me onto your show. Look, it is really exciting times for us. I think there's more and more public interest and public awareness of biochar, and we just need to get it out there, start using it, and let's get the feedback and see what you would like as flower growers that I can do to improve the product.
Love that thought. Thanks, Matt.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Until next time, petals, smile, be happy, and if you like the way we're connecting all aspects of the flower farming community, please buy us a coffee using the link in the show notes. Buying us a coffee is a great way of saying thanks. Let's bloom together with flower farming in New Zealand.